Hey everybody, so September is over, so it's time to have a look at all the games that I've played during the month of September, and I came up with my top 9. So before we get to that, let's look at the stats. So unfortunately in September in Alberta, they have reintroduced limitations in indoor gatherings. And as well, at my work, we had a couple of people sick with COVID, so I had a lot of extra hours and an extra shift to cover. So gaming took a bit of a hit. So I've played 27 times in the month of September with 15 different games and played 4% of my base collection. So it's kind of sad. But let's get looking into number 9. So number 9 is Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. So the month of September is when Fall Con normally takes place in Calgary, which is the largest board game convention in Alberta. And unfortunately this year it was online. But one of the things they did is they did the Fall Con auction online this year, and I ended up winning 6 games, this one being one of them. So I do enjoy Agricola, and was curious to see what the 2-player version of it, and it was neat. Basically, it condenses the game of Agricola into a quick, short, manageable little game. It kind of takes away a lot of the options in the original Agricola with all the worker placement options that you have. This one really concentrates on building your farm, getting your animal, putting your fence. So if that's the part that you enjoy the most about Agricola, you'll probably enjoy this quite a bit. There's no worrying about feeding your people or getting more people or anything like that either. It was neat. I enjoyed it. Definitely was quicker than the original game of Agricola. I found though that it's kind of like the end, the game ends and it's like, oh, but there's so much more I want it to do, which is probably a good thing in a game. So super cute. The little animal meeples are so neat to play with. So you have like the sheep, the horse, the cow, and the pigs, and then you have your resources that are all shaped as well, in the copy I got anyways. So it was definitely a fun one. So in number 8th position, I got Dice Masters The Amazing Spider-Man. I actually bought this game at the beginning of the summer and just never played it until now. Me and Lee actually played it quite a few times, and I have yet to win. But this is very much like Warriors, which is a game that I have and really enjoy. So it's kind of like a deck builder, but it's with dice. So you're buying dice, adding them to your bag. I'll mention the bag that comes with it is like this little, not quite a paper bag, it's definitely stronger than a paper bag, but it's thematic as in it's printed with Spider-Man things, but Lee has big hands. He's really struggled reaching in there. So you may want to look at upgrading your bag if you're getting this game. The board that I'm playing on was printed and laminated by myself, and it comes in the rule book that you can copy it, and then there's a link to download it yourself. You don't need to have it to play, but definitely makes the whole thing a lot easier to follow along, so I would highly recommend it. It's a neat one. It's as opposed to Warriors. With Warriors, like, yes, you battle each other, but you're collecting points. With this one, you are battling each other, but you're not collecting points. You're hitting the person you're playing against, and last man standing is the winner. As opposed to Warriors as well. In Warriors, all the dice that you can purchase are communal. Everybody has access to them. In this one, you have a couple sets of dice that is specifically for you to use, and only you can purchase those, and then you have the community dice as well that you can purchase. It's neat. I like all the dice, because they're all unique dice that you can have. The battle part of it, it's very neat and very enjoy, and then hopefully sometime soon I'll actually win a game. So in position number 7 is Sherlock 13. So I've played Sherlock 13 in the late spring, and it was so good, and I've only played it the one time because a copy I had purchased wasn't for me, it was a birthday gift. Saw that somebody was selling their copy, so I jumped on the opportunity to buy my own copy. And it was neat because the copy that I purchased, everything was still in shrink inside the box. They had actually never played it. There lost my gain, I guess. Such a neat game. There's 13 cards. That's all you play with, and you shuffle those cards, and then one is put in the middle, and that is the criminal, and the other cards are handed out to all the other players. On your turn, you can ask how many people have a certain symbol. And they don't tell you how many of that symbol they have. They just put their hands up if they have it, or they don't put their hands up if they don't have a character that has that symbol in the cards that they were handed in. Or you could ask specifically to one person, Lee, how many pipes do you have? And then you'll say, I have 2, or whatever the answer is. Or you can say, okay, I think I know who the criminal is, and then make your guess. It's neat. Each of the characters have symbols on the bottom, so at the beginning you'll have your 3 or 4 characters, and you'll kind of take note of, cross them off, and how many symbols you have of each, and you eliminate the symbols or kind of figure out where the symbols are, so then to find the missing symbol. So obviously the missing symbol is whoever is in the criminal in the middle of the table. So it's a neat, quick deduction game, kind of has that Clue feel, but much quicker. And it's the kind of game that you'll play a few rounds in a row. Really enjoyed this one. I'm really glad I have my own copy. In position number 6 is Space Base. So in my household, Machikoro is a big winner, and we play it very often. And everybody was telling me that Space Base was the Machikoro killer, and so I figured I wanted to try it. A friend came over, we had played his copy, and I decided to buy my own. It is definitely very similar to Machikoro, has that same mechanism and then kind of feel to it. I don't know that I would get rid of a Machikoro copy. I think that's still a big winner in my household, but this one is close as well. So over here you see the board, kind of how it's set up at first. You have a card on each position between 1 and 12. And when you roll your dice, you roll both dice, but in this one you can, like, let's say I roll a 2 and a 3. So I could activate position 3 and position 2. Or I could choose to combine my dice and activate position 5 instead. So it's interesting. And then as you're purchasing new cards, you'll put that card that tells you what position the card is for. So let's say I'm replacing card number 7. So then I would put the card in the 7th position, and the card that was already in the 7th position gets flipped over so that the red is, and you tuck that underneath your board. And now when other people roll, those red showing at the top, and I'll show you the next pictures because I have a lot more over there. So all of those red numbers that you've accumulated at the top is what you can score when somebody else rolls that number. So you're kind of slowly building up. So it makes sense to build up your lower numbers if you can, because if they roll a 2 and a 3, you could activate your 2 and your 3, or choose to activate your 5, just like if it was on your roll. It is definitely interesting. It's one that I'd kind of want to play a little bit more of to get a better sense of it, but it was definitely a fun one. Obviously, it made my top 9, right? Then in position number 5 is Santorini. So this was the first time that my spouse had played Santorini, and I can't believe he hadn't played it. Now it says 2 to 4 players. I really think this game shines at 2, and that's how I normally always play it. But it's so pretty. This has such an amazing table presence. So you set it all up, and it's a puzzle game. The goal is to become king of the hill, right? So you build your buildings, and there's 3 levels that you want to build, and you want to get one of your guy at the top of the building in order to win. But you can't just go from the ground level to the top of the 3rd level. You have to jump 1 level at a time, so you got to build around it to make sure that you kind of step up. And if somebody gets to a position where they're about to jump on the 3rd level, and you need to try to stop them if you can, and then you would build these little blue domes on the top, like in the island of Santorini, kind of the building that's over there. Very beautiful, thematic looking game. And it's an interesting kind of almost checker-like game, right, where you're trying to uphand the other player. Very neat. Then in number 4 position, I have Chai. So Chai is another game that I bought secondhand this last month. I purchased a lot. I find when I don't get to play a lot, I tend to purchase to overcome, which is bad. My shelves are pretty full. So I ended up purchasing Chai, which I've always actually wanted because Chai was designed by people local to the Calgary area, and I was very curious about it. So components in this game are amazing. You get these little polymer cups, I guess, that kind of goes in the game, and you got those tiles, and then it's a neat looking game, and all the components put together is very beautiful as well. So here's a bit of a close-up on those cups. Like, they're so designed, and I'm assuming that's part of the base game, but like I said, I bought this secondhand. Could have been like a deluxe Kickstarter edition, I'm not sure. So those were the cups, and basically you get orders that you want to fulfill each round depending on the number of players. So if you're playing 2 players, then each round you want to fulfill 2 orders. If you're playing 4 players, then each round you'll want to fulfill 4 orders. And the cards that you have facing up will have different tea. So maybe it's white tea or black tea, and then different flavors that you need to add. So maybe it's a white jasmine tea that you need to put some honey and milk in or whatever, right? So you got to go around trying to collect all the ingredients that you'll need to fulfill that order. And when you can and you're done, then you put all of those ingredients into the cup and you flip that little token next to the cup, and that's what you get for a tip. And you play, and I can't remember, I think it's 5 rounds doing this, and then whoever has the most points at the end, because when you fulfill your order you kind of keep that card and it's worth points, so whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. So this is what the market looks like. So you have those nice big chunky almost azul-like tiles, or yeah, I guess they're tiles. That's your flavor for your tea. And then at the top there you have the pantry where you'll have your milk, your sugars, your honey, things that you can add to your tea as well. Everybody gets their own player board because you can only hold on to so many at a time as well. And then you get little wooden tokens that represents the type of tea that you're doing. So I would be playing as the white tea. Now to fulfill any white tea orders, I need to put one of my white tea into it. Other players can utilize my white tea as well, but then they'd have to pay me a gold coin to get access to that. And then the money is used to purchase your ingredients. Really neat. It's thematic. It's pretty. It's so pretty to look at. The artwork is great. Then in number 3 position, I have Word Slam. So it was my coworker's birthday party, and I went to get her some balloons the day before. And while I'm waiting for the balloons to get pumped up, I ended up buying Word Slam. And I got home and I was like, oh my god, do I have no self-control? And apparently when it comes to board games, my self-control is very little. So yeah, so I got Word Slam this month, and I had played it once at a game night that I had hosted and loved it. And it is such a neat game. It's definitely a party game. So you have 2 teams, so the orange team and the blue team. And you'll get a clue giver on each of the team, and the clue givers will look at the cards, and then there's different words on it, and they'll pick one. And then so each team has a clue giver, and then they'll have the word they're working on, and then you have all of these other cards in front of you, and they're the same for each team, but they'll have their own set. And you kind of flip through it, so it'll have verbs, it'll have noun, it'll have like descriptive words, it'll have you know, different things on that. And then you got to utilizing these cards only, putting things up, trying to get your teammate to guess your word. Now you can hear what the other team is saying, but you don't see the words they have, and so you can kind of keep that in mind as well. We played girls versus boys on that first time, and what was it, one time they had vehicle, metal, shoot, and they guessed tank like instantly. Such a fun game, and I've played it multiple times since, and it's a blast. I'm really enjoying it, so I don't regret my impromptu game purchase while getting balloons, but because this is so good, and we've played it a few times, and with the kids it's just been a hit. So in number 2 position, I have Gloomhavens Jaws of the Lion. So this is a campaign game. We've been working through it this I don't know, we're about halfway through, I think. It's me and Lee playing it, and which kind of, with campaign games, honestly, like, it's hard to get people to come together to play that same game. So when I find as a couple, something that's like, it's easier to get to. So I tend to play those just me and Lee. So this was a neat scenario. I don't remember the name of the scenario, and I'm not gonna, or which scenario it was, but I'm not gonna give it away either. But this is the first scenario that we lost, and now we have to try over again. It was a little demoralizing. It was like, well, and it was interesting because with this one, something came up that we didn't know would. So I had given up all of my good cards trying to beat that first portion, not realizing more was coming. So it was neat though. It was fun. With Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, like, you each have your own character, and you have these cards that will dictate the actions that you can do, and slowly these cards get used up, and some of them goes away, and every round one goes away, so you kind of see them diminish, and then I ran out of cards. So that's how I ended up losing. But on these cards, there's a top action and a bottom action, and each round you select two, and you do one top action and one bottom action. And my particular character has a lot to do with manipulating other monsters or other players and give them abilities or extra attacks. So every time I would be like, okay, great, so I'm gonna do this so that Lee can do an extra attack, and it's gonna be such a good attack. But there's a range, and he kept moving out of range before my turn would come up, because you don't discuss which card you're picking, and then he would move, and I'm like, great. So it was neat. It was fun. I'm not huge into miniatures, but they are very detailed and neat. Kind of definitely adds to the game. And yeah, it was an epic fail game, but it was so good. Then in my number 1 position is Arkham Horror 3rd edition, and I've just bought that from Pandora's Box, which is my local game store that I like to go to all the time. I like the Arkham Horror series, or the Cthulhu type game. This one did not disappoint. It is a stunning game once it's all set up. So you have the map of Arkham, which is the town where all these things are happening, and it's a cooperative game, so you're all working trying to get rid of the bad things happening in town, because if you get too many in one spot, then you get an anomaly that starts happening, and bigger, badder monsters start showing up, and you're trying to save the town of Arkham. As your character, you have both health and sanity, and so depending on what you're battling, you'll take both physical damage as well as mental damage, and if any of those ever get down to 0, then your character dies. What's neat with this one is very story driven. So you have different cards that you start off with, and you read, and it kind of describes what's happening. And to win the game at that stage, you still don't know what you need to do because you haven't developed the story enough. So it's like in this one is like you want to try to find 3 clues and then investigate those clues to add to the scenario. Once you reach 3, a new card comes out. But in the meantime, if 3 Doom token gets added to the scenario, not necessarily to the board, but like into the scenario, well then a different card gets brought out, and then the story takes on a different turn. So neat. Really enjoy this game. I can't wait to play it again. Of course, we played it the 1 round. We didn't quite finish it because it is a bit of a longer game, and we're gonna play the next day, and then couldn't, and then the rules changed, so indoor gatherings got put on hold again. So it looks amazing. It looks stunning. Each scenario that you play, you can actually put the map together differently, and they're double-sided, so it can change up. So neat. Definitely worth the number 1 position. So that was my top 9 games of the month of September. I used the Pub Meeple website to kind of help sort which games ends, and it's interesting with that one. You kind of enter all the games you want to compare, and it'll be like, okay, so between this one and this one, which one did you like best? And you kind of select. So it's time consuming, but it's a neat way of getting your top 9 list. So that was it for my top 9 for the month of September. If you want to follow me on Facebook, my Facebook page is Didsbury and Area is Playing All the Game. I am also on Instagram as BoardGame_Mama, and my YouTube channel is BoardGame Mama. So stay tuned for the top 9 of October next month, and then see which game. Hopefully we get to play a little bit more games and then get a nice selection of game for that month. Bye everybody.